Wendy here, and today I'm going to be talking about never formally being diagnosed with Tourette's. So, what do I mean by that? What's very interesting about my story, and the reason I really want to spread my story, is because I have never formally been diagnosed with Tourette's. So a lot of you guys might be asking, like, Wendy, with what? What are you even talking about? Then how do you even know you have it? So what's really interesting about my story is that I have had tics my entire life, or as long as I can remember. The earliest tics that I remember were when I was like around 3 or 4. And if you guys are interested in what those tics were, it was like explicit. I'm not gonna do it in case kids are watching, but I would stick out like my middle finger, and I would like I didn't know why I needed to do that. And as a little kid, I knew it was bad. I wasn't supposed to do this. So I would like get pillows and I would like flip them off. I'd get like toys and I'd flip them off. Like I constantly had to do that. And like I was just like so like even at a young age I knew I was supposed to hide them. So I remember as early as kindergarten I had a lot of face grimaces, I had a lot of head shaking, and like it was before I went to school, so I remember always hiding behind the couch and doing it so my mom wouldn't see me. I don't know why I thought I was gonna get in trouble or something, and so I was always hiding them. But obviously you can't always hide them, so my mom did notice that I did a lot of these things. Okay guys, so I want to preface this by letting you guys know that I grew up like pretty low income. Like we weren't the richest around and stuff. So like whenever like the kind of insurance I had like Medi-Cal. The doctors that I went to weren't always that great. And like I don't want to say anything bad about the doctors, it's just I guess they see so many patients and they're seeing so many patients, I guess we don't get like the best care, I want to say. When I was younger, I remember when we would go to the hospital, I would just go for like my routine checkups, and they'd look me over and they'd be like, all right, you're healthy. When my mom noticed that I started doing my tics, that's when she brought it up to the doctor. And I remember her bringing it up when I was really young, like around 5. But I remember her bringing it up like around when I was like 5, 6, 7. That kind of like blurs together. And when she brought it up, the doctor kind of just looked at my mom, and she was just like, oh no, like those things go away, like kids just do those kinds of things and they'll eventually go away. My mom was satisfied with that answer. So then over the years they weren't going away, and sometimes they would just get worse. So when my mom would ask the doctors again, it was always just, she's a kid, kids kind of do quirky things, it's fine. Just over the years, she kind of just kept getting like the same answers. It's fine, she'll grow out of them. A lot of doctors would be like, they're called tics, kids do it, it's fine. But we never got like a formal diagnosis. So I remember when I was around like 13, 14, they had gotten to a point where they were really bad. And around that age, I was kind of embarrassed because whenever I would tic like in school or just around friends, like I would get questions and they'd be like, hey, why are you doing that? Like even my family, they'd be like, why are you doing that? Like stop that. And I didn't have an answer to give them, and sometimes I would just stop because like you could control them up to a point. So I'd be like, oh no, it's nothing. It's just like I had something in my eye, or I was just coughing. But like it gets to a point where people know that you do this, and you just don't have an answer for them. And it's kind of like at like 13, 14, I was like going into high school, and they were getting really bad, and like sometimes they get bad because of anxiety. And it was just kind of perpetual that I would get anxious about my tics, so I would tic. And like I would be in class and ticking, and people were like, why are you doing this? And I had no answer to give them. I couldn't just say like, oh, I have this feeling. Like I couldn't even articulate what I was feeling. Like oh, I have this feeling that I need to tic. But sometimes I'd just be like, oh, I just do that. Or I'd say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I'd brush it off. Like that was all of my adolescence, always brushing off the tics. Like like the doctor told me they would go away. I'm just waiting for them to go away. So I remember when I was 14, they got really bad at that point when I entered high school, and my mom was like, that's it, we're going to the doctor. So we ended up going to the doctor, and she made the appointment solely to talk about my tics. So we go, and my mom at this point, like she just doesn't know what this is. Like she doesn't have like, it's not that she didn't have access to internet, it's just that she just doesn't know how to use the internet. She gets all of her answers from the doctor. So we go in, and the doctor is just like talking, he's just like asking me questions, and I'm telling him this is what I feel, this is what I do, these are the things I do. And he was just like, oh, well, you know what, it could be Tourette's. And at that point, I kind of had like this sense of relief wash over me that I was like, this thing has a name. Like it's not just like something I do, it's something that has a name. And that was the first time I ever heard the word Tourette's. So looking back on that doctor's appointment, it was kind of like, I was satisfied and dissatisfied at the same time, because dissatisfied just because the doctor essentially just said like, oh, it could be that, like that, it could be that. And I understand that he wasn't a specialist, and he was essentially just telling us like, oh, go to a specialist if you want to be diagnosed. But just I like telling my story because just coming from a low-income family, like that wasn't an option for me really. It wasn't like something that I was like, oh, all right, let me just call up my specialist on the phone and like see what this is. Like it was just like for us, like that was a special, like that doctor was like should have told us like what it is. And so like I was even translating for my mom at the time, and she was just like, what is that? And I was like, well, I don't know. He said it was Tourette's, and she's like, Tourette's, what is that? Like we had no idea what it is, and he didn't really like explain it either. And it was just it kind of got left at that. And my mom just wanted to know I was healthy. That's all she wanted to know. So she was like, oh, is she healthy? Is it okay? Is it like anything that we have to worry about? He was like, no, it's just sometimes kids do that and then they'll go away. Like he was just like, later in your teens it'll go away. And that's how he explained it to me. And I was like happy about that because at the time I didn't know like if they kept kind of giving me like this end road. Like they were just like, this is the finish line. Like once you're done being a kid, they'll go away. And I kind of like accepted that. I was like, all right, cool. When I guess I'm gonna have to have this for now, and I'll eventually stop having it. So he just said like, you're healthy, everything's good with you. You just have like tics, and like that's the end of it. So I never got a formal diagnosis when I was like a kid. So then going back to me finally knowing the word Tourette's, like I finally had something to go off. Like I went on the computer and started researching everything, and like I just got like a sense of relief washed over me when I just started reading all of these things, and I was like, this is what I have. Like it was just kind of like a moment, like I don't know like how to explain it, just going your whole, like it's kind of like this is kind of like the feeling like when you're trying to remember a song, but imagine going your whole life, you cannot name this song that is stuck running over in your head, and finally you hear it and you get the name of it. Like that sense of relief kind of washed over me when I started reading like everything, like all of the tics, and when I happened, like I just started reading stories about like how like me. And it was crazy because like growing up I never met anybody else with Tourette's. I didn't know anybody who had tics. I just felt so alone in this, and I just kind of felt like how did I feel? Like I just didn't know everything that I do now. Like I didn't know anything. I was just in the dark. And then finally, when I finally had like a word to give to it, and I knew it wasn't something that was wrong with me. I just knew that I was like, oh, it's something that I'm born with. It's just like, it was like incredible, because now even when people would ask me, even though I didn't start being open about them until my early adult life. Like I think I started being open about them like when I was like 22, 23, somewhere around there. But even now, like I was just like, after that moment, I was just kind of like, all right, well, you know, it's like something like I still hid them, and I still kind of like, just because I didn't have that diagnosis, I wasn't okay with it until I was in adulthood. Like I didn't want to openly be like, oh, I have Tourette's or I have this and that, because the doctor didn't tell me that. He was like, oh, it could be that, go to a specialist and find out, and we just never did that. So I was kind of always, I still had like that hesitation and being like, oh, well, this is what I have, but at least I had more knowledge on it, saying like, oh, I can't control it and they're called tics, and I had more to go off of. And like I feel like that's really what boosted my confidence in high school, because I think if I didn't have like a lot of information in high school, I would have just been more quiet about them. I was like really open about them if somebody were to ask me, but I wasn't as open. I would still restrain them and stuff. So once I got to my early adulthood, that's when I went back to the doctor myself, and I was like, oh, so a doctor, when I was young, when I was a kid, I went to a doctor and they told me that I could have Tourette's. Is that something that I could have? I just want to kind of put like a formal name to that. And he was like, yeah, I think that's what you have. The only thing is that you should have been diagnosed in childhood. And I was like, well, that's not something that can like I can know now. Like, is there anything I can do to like? And so basically I explained all of my symptoms and stuff, and he was like, yeah, well, you would have to go to a specialist for that, but like him as a doctor was just like, well, that's Tourette's. But like he didn't give me a formal diagnosis either. So I have never been formally diagnosed with Tourette's. Like nobody ever wrote down in a notepad saying like, you got Tourette's, there you go. So I don't want to generalize in any way, but I just feel like for my experience, it was always kind of brushed off as saying like, oh, you need more vitamins, or like, oh, it's just like, it's because you're eating too many hot Cheetos, or it's like just things like that. And it's not something that's really taken seriously. And it's like a lot of parents want to be like, no, my kid is 100% healthy. That's because of another reason. They don't want to kind of put a name on like what you have. I love sharing my story just to probably give confidence to other people that who probably feel like, oh well, like, you know what, I don't belong in this community because I don't know, a doctor has never officially told me, or a doctor has never told me that I have Tourette's. But if you have motor or vocal or tics, like you've had them your entire life and you know what this condition is, and all you're missing is a doctor telling you. Like, I just don't want you guys to feel like you can't be part of this community, because me, myself, and I have never been formally diagnosed with Tourette's. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share my story. Please comment below if you have a similar story to me where it took a long time to get your diagnosis, or you haven't been diagnosed at all. I would love to hear it. And then for those of you who have been diagnosed, let me know if like maybe the road to it was really easy or how it went. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye guys.